Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher. Mr. Pandaria has arrived, and I can only start this in one way, and that is the Prot Warrior. You know it's my favourite class, always has been since vanilla. It's a favourite class and spec. I absolutely adore it. It's changed a hell of a lot in Mr. Pandaria. So what I've done is at the top you can see links to other aspects of the Warrior class and the gameplay footage of the Prot Warrior in action, where I'll talk you through what I'm doing and the abilities I'm using in what order. On the left I've put a lot of buttons there that you guys can pick whichever aspects of the Prot Warrior you want to see, be it gemming, glyphs, talents, reforging or rotation. Go and click those things, it'll skip to that area of the video that you're interested in. So let's begin. We are a Prot Warrior. Yes, we are. We get Shield Slam, we get Devastate, we get Revenge, we get Shield Block, we get all this gravy stuff that we absolutely adore. What do we do with it? Let's talk about our talents first. This is going to be looking at the Prot Warrior in patch 5.05. It's just launched. This is only a couple of days after Mr. Pandaria has come out. We are, of course, level 90, and we're going to be looking at the things you need as you get into your first 5-man heroics and your early raid bosses. Now, these talents are for the 5-man heroics. I'm going to talk you through the choices that you can pick up for your raid bosses. It's going to be cool. First things first, this is your movement, your mobility talent tree, okay? Your first one. For your 5-mans, I really recommend Juggernaut. When you're in your 5-mans, you want a great mobility. You want to move from pack to pack to pack as fast as possible. As soon as a mob dies, you need to be the first man there to the next pack so you can start getting your threats on it and get a better pull and make sure that your DPSs aren't ripping aggro off you or pulling early and causing your mobs to spread out and all sorts of crazy nonsense. Juggernaut makes this happen. You can charge every 12 seconds instead of 20 seconds. This allows you to go from mob to mob to mob, and you mix in Heroic Leap, you're in good shape. You're always going to be in good shape with this, okay? So I really recommend Juggernaut for your 5-mans. However, obviously in a raid boss situation, you're not going to need to charge every 12 seconds. Hell, you might not even need to charge at all. So what should we pick? The only other option here, Warbringer, is generally garbage. Knocks the target to the ground. Well, bosses aren't stunnable, are they? So let's face facts, we can't really use Warbringer. So our other choice is Double Time. Now you can make a consideration choice here. What happens in the fight? Do ads spawn? Do I have to move somewhere very, very quickly and then move back to the boss? Double Time can come in very handy. We can charge and then charge back again super fast. So we can charge to a mob, shield slam it, get some aggro on it, and move the hell back if it's just out of taunt range or whatever reason we need to do that. The only other consideration is Double Time to Juggernaut. Don't worry about Warbringer, it's never going to help you. Our next talent tree is something about survivability and self-healing. Self-healing is always pretty cool. Self-healing gets us out of a lot of messy situations. In a 5-man, we're going to be tanking tons and tons of mobs. We're going to be tanking big packs of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or if not more mobs. In that situation, we're going to be using a lot of thunderclaps, a lot of revenges, a lot of cleave damage going on when we've got a lot of deep wounds ticking, which means we have a very high chance of actually killing a lot of these mobs ourselves, getting that killing blow. In this case, Impending Victory is the way to go for your 5-mans, okay? Impending Victory, when we kill an enemy that yields experience or honor, resets the cooldown of Impending Victory and causes your next Impending Victory to heal for 20% of your maximum health. It's huge heals. I've seen some nice 80k heals out of Impending Victory. I really have in the 5-mans. And while we're tanking tons of mobs, it procs a hell of a lot. So during our trash and getting through our 5-mans, the bosses we're not particularly worried about. We will still get a 10% maximum health heal, which is always nice in an emergency situation. But while we're tanking a ton of trash, Impending Victory is the way to go. It's also, I consider it to be the best for single target raid tanking as well. If you're tanking that boss, having that 10% health heal on demand whenever we need it, every 30 seconds, costing 10 rage, it costs barely anything. It's one shield slam's worth of rage. Really gives us that nice heal on demand. Your other choices really are in rage regeneration. It's going to cost you 60 rage. Now, that sounds like a lot. It's not when we get to the changing playstyle of the Prot Warrior. And it recovers a nice, heals you for 10% of your total health and an additional 10% over 5 seconds. So we get a nice 20% heal on demand. It can be nice in specific situations when we get hit by that super boss ability. We need a heal, we need to help our healers out. It's on a 1-minute cooldown. Something we need to be aware of. We've got 2 heals out of Impending Victory, which are instant 10% heals, but we will get 20% out of our Enrage Regeneration, but it's going to cost us 60 rage compared to the 20 rage per minute of Impending Victory. So it's going to cost you a little bit more. Be aware of that. The other choice is Second Wind. Whenever we're struck by a stun or immobilize, we generate 20 rage. But whenever we're below 35% health, we regenerate 3% health per second. Ideally, we're not going below 35% health enough to warrant Second Wind. It's more of a oh crap situation in PvP more than anything. I still think Impending Victory is the way to go. It's the only choice, really. Enraged Regen is very, very specific. Impending Victory works all the time. At level 45, we get some sort of CC. Staggering Shout is garbage for tanks. We just ignore that. It causes all enemies with 20 hours that are snared to become rooted. Remember, they have to be snared in order for this to take effect. So if we hamstring them and then Staggering Shout them, we can root them for 5 seconds. Piercing Howl is for those bosses and those raids that need something kiting. And our Prot Warrior has nothing better to do than to run around like a retard using Piercing Howl. So far in Mists of Pandaria, I have tanked all the raid bosses on the beta. There was no fight whatsoever that would warrant a Piercing Howl. Disrupting Shout, however, in comparison to these two, is an absolute godsend. It is so powerful in our 5-mans, I just don't know how we could live without it. Disrupting Shout, AoE Silence. It's an AoE Silence. There is nothing better for gathering a group of casters together than a Disrupting Shout. It works on all sorts of tricky situations. It gathers all those mobs up, makes it easier to tank, makes us easier to DPS down, and overall just makes our life so much better. Pick up Disrupting Shout and get used to it. Get it keybound. Use it all the time. It's on a 40-second cooldown. It's so damn useful, guys. And also, it can be used single target. So we can lock down a caster indefinitely. You mix in Spell Reflect and our Mass Spell Reflection we'll talk about soon, plus Pummel, plus Gag Order from our Heroic Throw, plus Disrupting Shout. Casters have no chance in dealing with a Prot Warrior whatsoever. They have to stand there mindlessly. Get used to this. At level 60 we get some sort of offensive ability. We get Bladestorm, Shockwave or Dragon Roar. In your early 5-mans, check my gear out here. You can see I'm wearing a lot of greens. This is how you guys are going to be entering your first heroics. You can see the item level is 443, which is 3 levels above what you need to get into a heroic. You need an item level of 440. There is only one choice, and it's Shockwave. Simple as. A 20-second cooldown that stuns all enemies for 4 seconds. There is no defensive cooldown in the game better than simply stopping all the mobs attacking you for 4 seconds. The biggest heals in the world can land on you in 4 seconds. On a 20-second cooldown, this is the way to go. And it does nice damage too. A lot of people want Bladestorm. You can dodge, block and parry in Bladestorm. It's amazing. It's not. Unfortunately, it's got a cast time. It's a 6-second cast. Not a cast time, I should say. It's a channeled spell. Cast 6 seconds while you can't do anything else. That's terrible for tanking. We need to be reactive as a tank. Bladestorm, if you want to cheese the DPS meters and do some crazy damage, sure, Bladestorm might come in funny. But if you're in that situation, you probably don't need the very basic guide, you know? You're very overgeared. Bladestorm's fun. It's not the best. Shockwave is always going to be the best. However, Shockwave is a stun. That is its primary use. And of course, bosses cannot be stunned. So if we're raid tanking a single target boss, we want the Dragon Roar. We want the Dragon Roar. It's going to give us huge amounts of threat at the start of the pull. It's a guaranteed critical strike. It ignores all armor. It literally smashes a boss in the face. And that's what we want. We want that boss to feel that we are there. Instant threat. We charge in. We drop our Skull Banner. We pop our cooldown down here. And we pop a Dragon Roar. Nothing is pulling aggro off us, and every 1 minute we can do it again. We can do it on AoE packs should this boss require some adds. If you're tanking a raid boss, you want the Dragon Roar. If you're doing your 5-mans, you want the Shockwave. At level 75, we get some sort of raid utility. Now, this is something that's going to be situational. You're going to want to get your Tome of the Clear Minds to switch this out as needed. Let's talk about Vigilance for a second. It's a 40-yard range, 2-minute cooldown. Focus your protective gaze and party member. I can just imagine a protective gaze, like, I am protecting you. Transferring 30% of the damage taken to you for 12 seconds. 12 seconds of a 30% damage reduction? Wow. That's huge. That is really huge. That is tons of damage, especially if you cast this on another tank. As long as your healers are aware, you're going to be taking 30% of whatever that other tank is taking. Every raid boss in Mists of Pandaria requires 2 tanks. Vigilance is super powerful. Super powerful. But again, it requires that situation. Is there going to be a moment where I need to transfer 30% of the damage taken to me? And remember, it works on any party or raid member, not just the other tank. There are some fights where casters and DPSs in general need to soak something that's pretty dangerous. Vigilance can be super powerful there. If it's something that casters and DPS are supposed to take, then you're probably going to find Safeguard is better. It's a 20% damage reduction, but only on a 30-second cooldown. It just replaces our Intervene. If I think of the Bug Queen that you'll find in the Heart of Fear raid, the casters need to soak in these large energy pools, and they take a lot of damage. Now, there's 2 tanks on the boss, which means at some point, one of the tanks is always free. That could be you. You can go around and you can safeguard people. You can help the healers out. Every 20 seconds, every 30 seconds I should say, you can reduce their damage taken by 20%. Your healers are going to love you because you're going to prevent tons and tons of damage that they no longer need to heal. Safeguard can be awesome for that. For your 5-mans though, Mass Spell Reflection. This is an amazing ability, and it will come in handy on a couple of raid bosses too. It even works on pets. That's how insane this ability is. On a 1-minute cooldown, it reflects the next spell cast on you and on all party or raid members within 20 yards. Now, I can't express to you how powerful this is in a 5-man. There are a lot of things like fireball volleys, all this kind of AoE cast going on. Mass Spell Reflection nullifies all of them. It's insane. It's so cool. Really recommend it. And it works single target as well. So in between locking down a healer with Disrupting Shout, Pummel, Heroic Throw, and normal Spell Reflect, we can also throw in a Mass Spell Reflect. And I'll show you all that in the gameplay itself. At level 90, we have some sort of offensive utility, a DPS cooldown essentially. There's only really one choice for the tanks, and it's Avatar. There is some argument to be put towards Stormbolt, giving us 300% weapon damage against targets that are permanently immune to stuns, bosses. But Avatar, I just cannot see how this can be beaten, because not only is it an offensive spell by increasing our damage by 20% for 20 seconds, mix that in with the Dragon Roar we were talking about before, and your threat will never be an issue again. But it's also defensive in the fact that it generates 30% extra rage, which is going to come in very, very handy for our spells Shield Barrier and Shield Block we're going to be talking about shortly, okay? Avatar, I think, is the only choice for the tanks. It's brilliant. It lasts 20 seconds. We can mix it in with Recklessness and Skull Banner, getting a huge benefit from this. It also works with our Dragon Roar, buffing the damage of that. Remember, it's a guaranteed crit anyway. Avatar is a godsend, both defensively and offensively. Bloodbath is never going to be that useful to us, unfortunately. Bloodbath's a waste of time for the tanks. There is some argument towards Stormbolt, for sure, but I think Avatar is always going to be the way to go. Now with our glyphs, we have some choices. These glyphs that I've picked here are for 5-man heroics, which you guys should be jumping into. Glyph of Hold the Line. Improves the damage for your next revenge by 50% following a parry. In our 5-mans, we're going to be tanking tons of melee mobs. And we're also going to be wanting to get those impending victories that we talked about there. With this glyph, we get a good chance of doing that. We're going to be spamming a lot of revenge. The more melee mobs we have, the more parries we'll get, the bigger our revenges are going to be all the damn time, and it gives us great opportunity to get more heals. So this is actually acts as a defensive cooldown as well. Not a cooldown, defensive spell. By increasing our damage, we have a higher chance of killing mobs, higher chance of impending victory, more chance of healing ourselves. It's just all around good. Really like it for my 5-mans where I'm tanking a lot of mobs. Glyph of Death from Above not only reduces the cooldown of our Heroic Leap by 15 seconds, it increases its damage by 100%. So when we are doing those Heroic Leaps into the big packs, the next trash pack, we get 100% extra damage, 100% extra threat, and we're always in a good position, and we can use it very, very regularly thanks to the reduced cooldown. Great, great glyph. And of course, Glyph of Gag Order, we talked about this earlier, and in many other videos. Your Pummel and Heroic Throw also silence. There is nothing better than getting that mob that's caster, that's been ninja pulled, he's stood miles away from the pack. You don't want to be dragging your ass over to that mob, and then there's other casters in this pack that are just not going to move either. It's a pain in the ass. Glyph of Gag Order stops all that. Your Heroic Throw will silence that mob, bring it over to you. You're in a great, great shape with this, and it comes in so handy in your 5-mans. Now, obviously, when we're raid tanking, Glyph of Hold the Line's kind of okay, but we'll only be tanking one boss generally, so we will still parry, of course we will, and get that extra damage from revenge. But we're not going to be heroic leaping a lot. We're not going to really be range silencing anything in our bosses, so what do we take then? You have a couple of choices. While your shield block is active, your shield slam hits for an additional 50% damage. That sounds awesome. It's not as awesome as we would like it to be, unfortunately. The other choice here is Unending Rage. Increase your maximum rage by 20. Okay, now this is going to move us on to the rotation section of the video. Glyph of Unending Rage gives us 120 rage. Why is that important? Well, it's important because our shield block and our Shield Barrier. Shield Barrier is the new spell introduced in Mists of Pandaria. There it is. Shield Barrier, it says it costs 20 rage, but it consumes up to 60. Shield Block costs 60 rage. They both cost an equal amount to get their maximum effective use. With 100 rage, we have a possibility of casting 1. With 120 rage, we have an opportunity to cast 2. So this is going to change the playstyle. Traditionally, prot warriors always wanted to dump all their rage as quickly as humanly possible. This is no longer the case. First things first, Heroic Strike sucks. You ready? Watch the damage meter here. Heroic Strike, 7.7k. Shield Slam, 20k. Revenge, 11k. Devastate, 14k. Instantly, Heroic Strike not only costs us a ton of rage by dumping all our rage, but it hits for jack all, 10k. Wow. 15k Devastate. Revenge, 12k. Shield Slam, 40k crit, 20k hit. See? Same thing. It's absolute garbage. Heroic Strike sucks. Not only does it consume a ton of our rage, but it hits for nothing as well. You will only ever get into this habit. Use Heroic Strike or Cleave when Ultimatum procs. This is a passive ability. Our Shield Slam has a 30% chance to make our next Heroic Strike or Cleave cost no rage. So let me try and proc a couple for you. See if we can get some Sword and Board procs. There we go. No proc yet. Let's give me another Sword and Board. Come on, Devastate. Work it for me. Shield Slam. There it is. That's Ultimatum. It's this graphic here. You also get this buff up here. Ultimatum. And then we use Heroic Strike. That's the only time we use Heroic Strike or Cleave, when it's free and costs us nothing. Why is that? Prot warriors need to get into the technique of keeping above 60 rage at all times. You will do this because you need to have access to your shield block or your shield barrier whenever you need it. These things need to be used when we need them. It's no good. Let me just dump all my rage. Dump, 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 dump. It is no good being in this situation. Come on, disappear, rage. Disappear. Give me a Heroic Strike. There. It's no good being at 9 rage and going, oh crap, I'm nearly dead. Shield Wall. It doesn't matter, you're nearly dead. Rallying Cry. It doesn't really count because you're really dead. And I can't use my shield barrier. You can see I'm spamming it there. And I can't use my shield block because I don't have 60 rage. The new technique of playing the Prot Warrior is to never use Heroic Strike or Cleave until Ultimatum procs. Because it's garbage anyway. Don't worry about it. Those spells suck now. They're just no fun. You're going to be using your Revenge, your Devastate, and your Shield Slam all the time. And you're going to keep yourself up here. If you are about to cap Rage, go ahead and use your shield barrier, drop yourself back down to 36, and you'll be going to quickly back up to 60. You can see I'm already pretty much back up to 73, and I'm going to cap soon, shield barrier. And now I've got Ultimatum, I'll use my Heroic Strike there, and all the time I'm working my way back over 60. I'm back over 60 very, very quickly after using that shield barrier, and that is without the Glyph. If I had the Glyph of Unending Rage, I would always have access to my shield barrier, all the time. You need to get into this habit, guys. Seriously, get into the habit of always having above 60 rage under all situations. As soon as you think you're about to cap or are about to cap, use your shield barrier, dump that rage, get yourself a nice protective shield, 40k protection there. 40k protection, and that's without even Vengeance stacking, okay? Now, the big question is, which is better, shield barrier or shield block? The answer is shield barrier. Right now, as patch 5.05, shield barrier is better. It's a marginal difference. Super marginal, I will give you that. However, it is better. Don't worry about shield block for now. Shield barrier is better. Just better, but it is better. Especially at 60 rage. Not only does it absorb all damage, which includes magical damage. So if you've got that big breath coming from the boss, you've obviously got the rage ready, starts casting, boom, shield barrier. You're going to absorb most of that damage and take no damage whatsoever. Shield block is only melee. It's super powerful, don't get me wrong, shield block is very, very powerful against a lot of melee mobs. Shield barrier, however, is always better. The math has been done, I'm not going to bore you with the math, but it's true. That is just the situation. Keep yourself always above 60 rage. Do not press Heroic Strike or Cleave unless Ultimatum is about to proc. And then as soon as you get near the cap of rage, fire off a shield barrier and start working your way back up. Otherwise you're just wasting rage. We don't want to do that either. So 70, I'm not going to cast it yet. Oh, I'm near the cap. Boom, shield barrier. Got my shield on. And then just continue to play on. Get into this habit. Last thing I want to talk to you about is gemming. Gemming and reforging. The only thing you want to do as soon as you get to level 90 is just reforge. Don't worry about your gemming. Most of the things don't come with slots anyway. You can see these greens, no slots, no slots, no slots. I got a pair of shoulders that need a gem. I haven't even bothered. I just got these in the last run I did, which is pretty cool. Other than that, your gemming is going to be for mastery. Mastery is still an outstanding stat, and it just gets better and better. Critical block is awesome. You're going to go follow the same rules as Cataclysm, getting as much mastery as possible. In terms of your stamina, you want enough to survive 2 boss hits. That's it. Once you have enough stamina to survive 2 boss hits, be it in a raid, be it in a 5-man, be anything like that, then you're fine. Now you want to work on your avoidance stats. Your priorities are mastery. Get as much mastery as you can. You can see, and the stuff I have reforged, I've put as much mastery as possible. These are some new items I've just got. But I put mastery on anything I possibly can. You see there on that item that I managed to get a chance to reforge before I got new stuff. I have been tanking most of the day. I put mastery on it. You want your mastery. It just scales so well. After that, you want your dodge and parry. Slightly more leaning towards parry. Only slightly more. Get more parry if possible. You see I've got 9% dodge, 13% parry. Now, a lot of people are going, you need hit and expertise to be a really good tank. It's absolutely not true. It really isn't. Blizzard wants you to think that. It's only to increase your threat if you're struggling with playing. Having better defensive stats as a tank is always better, especially for the prot warrior. There are some slight changes in the other tanks, but generally your priority is gem as much mastery as possible. So if you have a yellow socket, it's a mastery gem. If you had a red socket, it's a mastery... excuse me, a parry mastery gem. And if you have a blue socket, it's a mastery stamina gem. Stamina gem. Do go for your socket colours still, as you did in Cataclysm. Get your socket bonuses. That's fine. That's fine and dandy. You don't need to start thinking, well, is that 20 stam more than that? Doesn't matter. Boost your mastery. If you've got a yellow socket, mastery gem. If you have a blue socket, it's mastery stamina. And if you have a red socket, it's a parry mastery gem. Okay, very simple, very easy. Your enchants will come as normal. You'll find you want things like Enchant Weapon Colossus, boost as much mastery as possible, dodge on braces, and so on and so forth. As you get on, there'll be higher and higher techniques. Any changes, I will post an updated video, but that is your Prot Warrior specialization. Let's jump into some gameplay and see how this all works out in theory.